Between 1916 and 1921, Irish nationalists pursued both political and violent means to achieve full independence from Britain. The 1916 Easter Rising is one of the most significant events in Irish history. Though not a military success, it inspired many Irish people and garnered more support for an independent Ireland than ever before. The Irish Republican Brotherhood had infiltrated most organisations in Ireland, and after the outbreak of the First World War, the IRB leaders began to plan an uprising against the British. The IRB believed Britain's difficulty was Ireland's opportunity due to the ongoing war in Europe. The IRB formed a secret military council comprised of 7 key members: Thomas Clarke, Sean McDermott, Pádraig Pearse, Joseph Plunkett, Eamon Ceannt, Thomas MacDonagh and James Connolly. The IRB needed weapons. Funds came from Irish Americans. Joseph Plunkett and former British diplomat Sir Roger Casement used the funds raised to buy arms and ammunition from Germany. It was decided that the uprising, or rising, would be held on Easter Sunday, the 23rd of April 1916, because Pearse believed in blood sacrifice, in which they would give up their lives for the good of Ireland's future, similar to how Christ sacrificed himself on the cross. Owen MacNeill and most of the Irish volunteer force didn't know that there was a rising being planned in the first place. MacNeill was opposed to any form of rebellion. He believed the Irish volunteers could only justify fighting if the British government attacked first. The military council knew that for the rising to be a success, they needed MacNeill and the Irish volunteers to be on board. They showed MacNeill forged documents stating that the British government was planning to disarm the Irish volunteers. It was supposedly written in Dublin Castle and became known as the Castle document. Because of this, MacNeill gave the Irish volunteers permission to take part in the rising. Originally, the rising was supposed to be nationwide. Arms and ammunition were to land in County Kerry on board the Odd. However, the Odd was captured by the British Navy. The Odd's captain sank the ship, and all 20,000 rifles and ammunition were lost. Casement was captured. MacNeill found out that the Castle document was a forgery and cancelled the participation of the Irish volunteers by placing a notice in the Sunday Independent newspaper. Despite the difficulties, the military council decided to go ahead with the rising for Easter Monday, the 24th of April 1916. There were only 1,500 volunteers and members of the Irish citizenry who fought on that day. It was confined to Dublin city centre instead of a nationwide rebellion. They occupied the General Post Office, or the GPO, Jacob's Factory, Boland's Mill, the Four Courts, the South Dublin Union, the Menzies Institution, St Stephen's Group, and the Royal College of Surgeons. The GPO was the headquarters for the rising. Pearse read the proclamation of the Irish Republic aloud. At the time, people passing by had no idea how significant this moment and day would be. The British government were taken by surprise. Only 400 soldiers were on active duty that day. Quickly reinforcements were brought in from the Curragh barracks and through ports such as Dunleary. By Tuesday, there were 6,500 British soldiers in Ireland. On Wednesday, the gunboat, the Helga, was brought down the Liffey and shelled the GPO. Even to this day, gun marks can still be seen on the GPO. As the week went on, the British gained control, surrounding the rebels. However, on Wednesday, at Mount Street Bridge, 13 rebels held up some 1,750 soldiers for hours and killed or wounded 231 soldiers before they were overwhelmed. By Friday, it was clear the rebels had been defeated. The city centre was in ruins. Pearse surrendered on Saturday, and Nurse Elizabeth O'Farrell was sent as a messenger to the British general to negotiate the surrender. However, she was laughed at and told there would be no negotiations. After this, Pierce surrendered unconditionally. The rising was officially over on the 1st of May 1916. Militarily, the rising was a failure, but it set in motion the events that would lead to the independence of most of the island of Ireland from British rule. Around 500 people had been killed and a further 2,500 had been injured. Damage to buildings and properties amounted to €4 million in today's money. This angered Dubliners, who had not taken part in this and had their property damaged. Around 3,000 people were sent to British prisons such as Frongoch in Wales. They became perfect places for revolutionary ideas to spread. 90 leaders of the rising were sentenced to death. Between the 3rd and 12th of May 1916, 15 rebel leaders were shot in Camelham jail, including every member of the military council. James Connolly had been badly wounded and could not stand. The British forces tied him to a chair and gunned him down at the jail. The executions turned popular opinion in favour of the rebels at home and abroad. The British stopped the executions due to sudden popularity amongst the rebels. However, Roger Casement was hanged for treason in August 1916. At the time, the newspapers referred to the Easter Rising as the Sinn Féin Rebellion. However, Sinn Féin were not even involved in the rising. Their popularity did increase under these false pretenses. About 250 women were involved in the Easter Rising. Most belonged to Cumann na mBan. They included members such as Ina and Nora Connolly, James Connolly's daughters, Countess Constance Markovich, and Winifred Carney. The 1916 Easter Rising has been commemorated most years since the founding of the Irish state, because the efforts of the rebels and the reaction of the British government and military helped convince many people to turn against British rule and seek full independence for Ireland. The Easter Rising was the first act in a long process towards an independent republic.